Hey folks, this is Rhykker with the Diablo 2 Resurrected Item Farming Guide. This video is part 1 in a 3-part series that'll cover the best spots to farm the best gear in the game, where to find what kind of items, and which areas are best to farm based on your build. This guide is brought to you in collaboration with Diablo 2 expert Tio, and you can reference the written guides on maxroll.gg, links in the description. And all the builds that we talk about in these videos can be found on Maxroll. So we're going to break down this video series into 3 categories, starting with early game farming, mid game farming, and late game farming. This is going to be the early game farming video to start you off with the launch of the new ladder, but we're going to have the mid game farming and late game farming videos up in time by the time you get there, hopefully. Now, when we're talking early game, we're talking about you're a fresh level 75 character. Before that point, you don't really need to farm for items, at least nothing more than a few leveling items. So be sure to check out all of our leveling guide videos to see step-by-step how to get to level 75 as quickly as possible. If you have followed those video guides, you will now be in a position where you can start farming. And as just a quick overview before we get into the other videos mid and late game, by mid game we mean that you have some of the gear that is recommended for your end game build, and you're at a stage where you're trying to get the more rare gear pieces for this build. And then when we define late game, you're at a point now where you have an Enigma and or an Infinity. These are needed to be extremely efficient in late game farming. And if you don't know what an Enigma or an Infinity are, that's a good indication that you're not yet ready to farm these locations. And right before we now start going over the runs for early game farming, a quick note about Magic Find. Unlike some other games, higher Magic Find in Diablo 2 does not make more items drop. It simply increases the odds that when an item does drop, it's more likely to be magic, rare, or above. So with 0 Magic Find, you might get 5 white items to drop. With 400% Magic Find, you might get 1 magic item, 2 rares, a unique, and a set. But it's still 5 items. Magic Find also does not increase the chances of runes dropping, or gems, or even jewels. It literally just affects an item's ability to roll as magic, rare, set, or unique. What does affect the number of items that drops is the number of players in the game. But oddly enough, only odd numbers. So 3, 5, and 7. So in a 2-player game, there are no more drops than in a 1-player game. But when you go to 3, then there are more drops. Now, if you're playing single player offline, you can simulate having more players in your game with the /players command, or they've now added a handy slider in the game settings where you can adjust this. But if you want to do it in game, you hit enter, you type /players7, hit enter again, and this sets the player count to 7, which means monsters will be more challenging, as though you had 7 players in the game, but also drop rates will be similarly buffed. Of course, this doesn't work for ladder. Okay, we're ready to get into the early game farming runs now. You have a number of different spots that you can farm, each with their own types of drops, and we're gonna go through each here. Now, unless specified otherwise, all these runs take place in Hell difficulty. Now, as a global tip, for most of what we're going over, if you're not a Sorceress and have teleport, and you're nowhere close to a point where you have an Enigma, a Staff of Teleportation, essential for being efficient on most of these builds. This is a staff you can buy at Ormus in Act 3. It has charges of teleport. You use it to just get by. You put it on your weapon swap, and you just zip around whenever you need that mobility, and then swap back to your main weapon when you want to deal damage. So the first run we have here is the Countess. If you're looking for runes, the Countess is the best one you can do, because she has a bonus drop that lets her drop from 0 to 3 runes on top of her normal drops. She can drop up to 6 items in total, items from her regular loot table and then the bonus drop. And actually farming her on a lower player count is much better for runes, because her regular loot table is calculated before the bonus drops, and we all just learned that more players equals more items. Basically, she can only drop up to 6 items. So if you're playing on high player count, her first drops could all be just from the regular loot table, which isn't the special extra rune loot table. So you want to ensure that you're not capping out and you're leaving room for those extra runes to drop. And why do you want runes? Well, 1, to create rune words, which you're probably running a build that's going to use a rune word somewhere, but also runes serve as a trade currency. So whether you're farming to build up your own rune words or just to trade with other players, farming runes is very important. Now, depending on the game difficulty, the Countess will drop different runes. On normal difficulty, she's guaranteed to drop 1 rune from L to Ral, with possible bonus drops that are also L to Ral. On Nightmare, she's guaranteed to drop one rune from L to Ko, with possible bonus drops that are L to Io. And on Hell, she's guaranteed to drop one rune from L to Lo, with possible bonus drops from L to Ist. So depending on what runes you need, you can decide what difficulty to farm on. Be aware, however, that runes that don't come from bonus drops can be extremely rare. For the most part, the runes you're getting from the Countess are the ones that are the bonus drop ones, so focus on those when picking your difficulty. Now, in addition to runes, the Countess is the only source for the Key of Terror, which she has a chance to drop when she dies. This is one of the keys needed to access the Uber fights, and it's also a valuable trade currency if you're not ready to fight Uber Diablo yourself yet. To farm the Countess, in Act 1, take the waypoint to the Black Marsh, locate the Forgotten Tower, make your way down to the 5th floor, where you'll find her. Now, as you're going through the tower levels, here's a little trick to find the next level a little faster. Once you've gone down a staircase, check what is the direction that you can run in. There'll just be one direction. From there, the next staircase is going to be to your left, from the direction your character's running in. Then for the Countess fight itself, it's worth noting that she will never leave the room she spawns in. So you can use that to your advantage to cheese her if you're having trouble. Now if you're farming Hell Countess, we'll go over some build recommendations. She's always going to spawn immune to fire and cold. So if that's your main damage type, farming her will be extremely inefficient, since you'll have to rely on your mercenary or other workarounds. For maximum efficiency, you need a build that uses teleport. Either because you're a sorceress, you have the Enigma rune word, or you got a Staff of Teleportation, as we previously spoke about. So for Amazons, the Lightning Fury build is the best for the Countess. While she is a low mobility build, you can easily kill the Countess with her before you've geared up. For Assassins, Lightning Sentry is the way to go. The Assassin's burst of speed skill will make up for a lack of teleport, allowing you to quickly make your way down to the lower levels. Even without good gear, killing the Countess is easy. For the Barbarian, the Warcry build, which deals guaranteed physical damage and stuns most enemies, can handle the Countess. On top of that Staff of Teleport, the increased speed skill is needed to maximize your efficiency here. For the Druid, the Hurricane Tornado Druid brings a mix of physical and cold damage, so you can take on the Countess. For the Necromancer, the Bone Spear build can destroy everything in the tower. And for the Paladin, the classic Hammered-in Blessed Hammer build has no trouble killing the Countess. Lastly, the Sorceress, who naturally has teleport, is always able to easily reach the Countess. The Lightning Sorceress is arguably the best for farming her, not just out of Sorceress builds, but arguably out of all builds in the game because of built-in teleport plus lightning damage that can always kill her. If you're running a cold or a fire sorceress, you need to rely on your mercenary to finish off the Countess, which makes this a less efficient run. On to our next farming spot, Andariel, the Act 1 boss. She's one of the best bosses to farm early on, being a great source of set and unique items with little risk to yourself. And even on Nightmare difficulty, her drops are still good. To farm Andariel, you take the waypoint to the Catacombs level 2 in Act 1, and then proceed downward all the way to Catacombs level 4. Now there's a trick to find level 3 from level 2. Once you arrive at the Catacombs level 2 waypoint, when your character is facing the exit direction of the map tile with the waypoint, you want to then go to the right as you're exiting. From levels 3 to 4 though, there's no trick to rely on random guessing. Then when fighting Andariel, you can trivialize her high poison damage by bringing a few antidote potions. As soon as you get poisoned, pop an antidote to immediately remove it. As for which builds are best to farm Andariel, well, Andariel is actually really vulnerable to fire damage. She literally has negative 50% fire resist, so fire builds can kill her the most quickly. So if you have a fire build, Andariel might be your best farming spot. But most builds are able to farm Andariel with little gear investment. Again, having teleport though makes this farm much more efficient. For the Amazon, the Lightning Fury build can easily destroy Andariel, but it's a long way to Andariel and the Amazon has no mobility options. It's going to be slow, you're going to be unable to skip a lot of the monsters in your way. So because of this, you're going to need a lot of resistance, you're going to need an item that grants cannot be frozen, and that Staff of Teleport as well. All key to being efficient here. For the Assassin, Lightning Sentry, best option. Burst of Speed gives you that high mobility, Staff of Teleportation makes it even more efficient. For the Barbarian, there aren't many good options for farming Andariel without an Enigma. The Frenzy Barbarian has high movement speed and can take on Andariel well enough, but it's his lack of area damage that makes it take a while to clear out monsters leading up to Andariel, really hurting your efficiency. For the Druid, Hurricane Tornado build can farm Andariel even on a low budget, with summons that'll tank the damage to keep you alive. For the Necromancer, the Bone Spear build can easily handle Andariel. Just spam Bone Prism, Trapper, and then Sniper from afar with Bone Spear. For the Paladin, the Hammered-in is arguably the second second fastest character for Andariel farming. Even without Enigma, he gets to use his charge skill and vigor aura to move rapidly. And once you add that staff of teleportation, he's only slightly slower than a sorceress at reaching Andariel. Blessed Hammer's gonna shred all the monsters around Andariel and make quick work of her as well. And then for the sorceress, both the Blizzard build and the Meteor build can both easily handle Andariel. And of course, that teleport makes her the most efficient, the best at farming Andariel. Blizzard quickly clears out all the monsters around Andariel, whereas Meteor is able to kill Andariel a lot faster because of that fire damage. Alright, on to our next run, another classic early game farm, the Secret Cow level. A literal farm! This is a great place to farm charms, runes, and base items to use for rune words. It's also a relatively safe place to farm with few surprises. It's just hordes of cows. Cows have no immunities, so any build can farm this level. Yeah, occasionally you'll have a special cow with an immunity, but you can ignore them in the worst case scenario. The boss of the cow level, the Cow King, is always lightning immune, but he's just a bonus. You can farm the cow level efficiently while skipping the Cow King. You're here to kill a ton of cows and get all those drops. The cow level can be opened on any difficulty once you've killed Bale on that difficulty. To open a portal to the cow level, you need to have first acquired Wirt's leg on a given game difficulty. The game knows what difficulty you got the leg on. To get the leg, you take the waypoint in Act 1 to the Stony Fields, find the Cairnstones, take the portal to Tristram, go all the way to the left, to the west, to find Wirt's corpse, click on it, grab the leg, go back to town. Then, you take his leg, put it in the cube along with a Tome of Town portal. While standing in the rogue encampment, you hit transmute, boom, opens that portal. Now, in older versions of Diablo, if you killed the Cow King, you could no longer open this portal. This is no longer the case in Diablo 2 Resurrected. You can kill the Cow King to your heart's content. Now, as for what specifically you could be looking for in the cow level that is worth so much, well, a normal difficulty cow level is where you're going to farm a crystal sword or broadsword to be used as a base for a spirit rune word, which is an incredibly powerful leveling item. You do, however, then need to take that item and socket it with the Act 5 socket quest. On Nightmare difficulty, you can farm cows to find charms that we call skillers. These are grand charms that have +1 to a specific skill tree. These skillers are important parts of any endgame build. And even if you find one that isn't for your build, you might be able to trade it. You can also find charms that grant resistance and plus to life. These will greatly aid your survivability, your ability to stay alive in hell difficulty. Then rings, amulets, jewels, flawless gems, all that can also be farmed here. On hell difficulty, this is where you're going to find most bases for endgame rune words. In addition to charms and flawless gems and jewels, and every type of rune can drop in the Secret Cow level. Also, if you're looking for the Cow King's leathers, these can only be farmed off the Cow King. His boots and armor can drop in any difficulty, but the helm only drops on Nightmare and on Hell. Now, there's a few nuances to the Secret Cow level to be aware of while you're farming. If you're hunting for base items, you actually want to eliminate all magic find possible. Remember our description of how magic find works. It just makes the items that drop more likely to roll as magic or above. You don't want a base item to roll as magic, you want it to roll as white. And you want more items to drop so you have greater possibility of bases dropping, so you ideally want to farm this on the highest odd-numbered player count you can. For build recommendations, every build can farm the cow level, but some are more efficient than others. In general, those that can kill large swaths of cows at the same time are the best. If you're a melee build, you're going to need a high block chance or damage reduction to survive. It's easy for ranged builds to just avoid the cows, but if you're melee, you gotta get into the thick of things. And those cows do pack quite a punch. For the Amazon, the Lightning Fury Javazon obliterates cows faster than an Outback Steakhouse, even with budget gear. She cannot handle the Cow King on her own, being lightning damage, so you either need to skip him or rely on your mercenary. For the Assassin, Lightning Sentry build. Burst of speed to move quickly, and then Corpse Explosion from the Death Sentry traps create massive cow explosions that are really satisfying. Now, the Barbarian is probably the weakest class to farm the cow level with. The Warcry, or the Singer Barbarian that shouts his enemies to death, it's the best low-budget option. It's not a huge area of effect, but it's the best the Barbarian really has at this point. The stun effect on Warcry will help keep you alive, though, as long as you don't run out of mana. If you can get the Immortal King set, you can start running a Whirlwind Barbarian, which will outperform the Singer Barbarian in the cow level, though on a bigger budget. For the Druid, the Wind Druid will do just fine, but the best build for the Secret Cow level would be the fire-based Fisher Druid. For the Necromancer, Corpse Explosion is a terrific area of effect skill, and every recommended Necromancer build uses Corpse Explosion. The question is just, how do we generate the corpses for the Corpse Explosion? So the best here might be the Poison Nova build, which uses Poison Nova to bring cows all to low health, making them super susceptible to those corpse explosion chain reactions. Then for the Paladin, Blessed Hammer shreds cows with its flying hammers while using its high mobility to quickly skim through the level, even without Enigma, thanks to charge and vigor. For the Sorceress, teleport lets her get to the cow level faster than anyone. But within the cow level itself, you don't really need teleport. It's useful, but it's not mandatory for farming. The Blizzard Sorceress can consistently take down cows, minimal gear investment. But if you can get an Infinity Rune Word on your mercenary, then Lightning surpasses the Blizzard Sorceress. That takes us onto our next zone, Lower Kurast, and if you're under-geared, this is a particularly inviting option. In Lower Kurast, you're actually just doing super chest runs, in which you don't have to kill anything. You're just trying to find specific chests to open and hope for good drops. These are the easiest farming runs to do. You can get charms, jewels, gems, and high runes to drop from these. Rune drops will go up to bare here. You don't even need Magic Find, since Magic Find will not apply to these special chests. The community calls these super chests. So to farm the Lower Kurast super chests, you're going to take the waypoint in Act 3 to Lower Kurast. To find the super chests, you're looking for 2 buildings that surround a bonfire. The building to the west of the bonfire will contain 2 super chests with an armor rack above them, while the northeast building contains 1 super chest and a weapon rack. Now we got a note here, super chests are not fancy, glowing, golden, magical looking chests. They just look like normal chests. They're super chests because they always drop more items than normal chests, while appearing perfectly normal. Now sometimes these super chests will be locked, so be sure to bring keys, unless you're an assassin, in which case you can pick locks. So apart from clicking these super chests, you'll also want to click on the armor rack and weapon rack, you're right there, plus any other clickables in the area. The racks can contain good item bases. The corpses can have any kind of surprises in them. Oh, and don't underestimate looking under tree stumps. If you can, do this on higher player counts for more drops. As for build recommendations, any build can do these. But high mobility, move speed, faster cast rate if you're using teleport, these all increase your efficiency. For the Amazon, Druid, and Necromancer, since these classes lack natural mobility, you're really at the mercy of a Staff of Teleportation, or at a higher budget, an Enigma Rune Word. You can also have the Harmony Rune Word on a bow on your weapon swap, even if you're not an Amazon, just to gain the Vigor aura to give you faster move speed. For the Assassin, you have Burst of Speed, which helps you move quickly, making this more efficient. For the Barbarian, you got a number of tools actually to increase your speed. You have the Increased Speed Combat Mastery, which just makes you run faster. You have the Leap skill to jump over enemies and obstacles, and you can even use the Frenzy skill to increase your movement speed when you hit an enemy. For the Paladin, the combination of the Vigor aura, which increases your run walk speed, plus the Charge skill, which lets you zip along the screen at a mana cost, makes this the best non-teleport option. Then for the Sorceress, of course, teleport, you are the king/queen. Plus, you can work in the Telekinesis skill, which lets you click on clickables without walking right up to them, saving you on a bit of time. The next one we'll cover here is Travincal. Here you can farm runes, unique and set items, and gold. With this run, you take the Act 3 waypoint to Travincal, and then just head east, kill the council members and any super unique monsters you encounter along the way. You do have to be careful on this run though, because you're going to run into enemies with various immunities, and you can get rapidly overwhelmed and killed if you're not careful. The more powerful you are, the more efficient this run becomes. And since the waypoint is such a close distance to where you're going, you don't need mobility or teleport as much as most other runs. Plus, the rewards here can be really great. You can get high runes up to Cham. Maximizing your Magic Find here will increase your yields, but you don't want to sacrifice too much damage or survivability here. It doesn't matter if you have 500 Magic Find if you're dead. And doubling your Magic Find isn't worth it if it's going to take you 5 times longer to do the run. As always, playing on higher player counts will result in more drops. Now, the Council spawns Fire Hydras, which pack quite a punch. So if you can, load up on fire resistance before going into this run. Your mercenary is particularly stupid and is going to just stand there and tank the hydras, so get fire resistance on him and try to move away from the stationary hydras. When they spawn, try to move your mercenary away because he has the dumb. For build recommendations, we'll note that you don't have to kill all the council members because sometimes they might spawn with an immunity towards your element. If it takes you 5 minutes to let your mercenary finish off 1 council member, think of how many other runs you could have done in the meantime, increasing your possible yields. Don't cling to the logical fallacy of, oh, but that's the one that was going to drop an SOJ. For the Amazon, the Lightning Fury Javazon, or we're recommending something else, the Freezing Arrow Boazon are best. The Javazon, when equipped with an Infinity, can even handle the lightning immunes. One of the council members, Geleb Flamefinger, is always immune to both fire and lightning, and others have a chance to spawn as immune to lightning. But for the Freezing Arrow Boazon, Flamefinger isn't a problem, but Torque Ice Fist always spawns immune to fire and cold. On this build, however, you are able to keep yourself at quite a distance away, and Torque will be the only cold immune you're going to face. For the Assassin, the Lightning Sentry Trap Assassin, once again, can kill everything in Travincal, including Galeb Flamefinger, because when you're facing a lightning immune, you bust out your Fire Blast. Now for the Barbarian, the Gold Find Barbarian is ideal here. By doing this run, you can max out your gold in no time, and then you can use all that gold to gamble for extremely valuable items like circlets, which you can then trade with other players. For the Druid, the Hurricane Tornado Druid has high survivability to deal with all the threats here, and you're dealing both physical and cold damage, so there's no enemy that's going to be completely immune to what you're dishing out. For the Necro, Corpse Explosion, it's going to deal with the high density of monsters here. You can go with a Poison Nova build to use poison to create those first corpses, but the Bone Spear Necro also works here. You'll just be sniping from afar to create the corpses. In fact, you can use Bone Prison to lock down the council members and then just snipe them with Bone Spear. For the Paladin, once again, the Hammerden. Even before getting an Enigma, no monsters here are immune to magic damage. And that's the damage you deal, so you can kill everything in here easily. Then for the Sorceress, Blizzard is the recommended build. It has a big area, and that cold damage can kill everything other than Torque Ice Fist. If your mercenary is strong enough, you might even be able to finish off Torque if you use your static field to bring him low enough. Alright, on to our next farming zone, or person, Mephisto. This is the best boss to farm early on. From him, you can get a large number of unique and set items, and even on Nightmare difficulty, he can drop some good stuff. To find Mephisto, you take the Act 3 waypoint to the Durance of Hate level 2. While killing Mephisto is easy enough, getting to him can be a bit challenging. You have to find the Durance of Hate level 3, and there can be some deadly monsters along the way. Finding the Durance level 3 is quite a feat in itself. But here's a trick. When you take the waypoint to the Durance of Hate level 2, take note of what room you're in. There's only going to be one exit, and when you're running towards that exit, the entrance to level 3 will always be to the left from your character's perspective. Once you reach level 3, Mephisto spawns always at the far end of the map. If you're undergeared, the fight can be challenging, but you can use the moat trick if you have access to teleport in order to attack him from a range without him fighting back. Now, if you're gonna do the moat trick, you need to let your mercenary die and stay dead because he's gonna screw things up. And by now you're asking, what is this moat trick? Well, once you find Mephisto, lure him south towards that blood pool moat, then teleport over the moat, and then move southeast along the edge of the blood pool to be roughly in line with the edge of the pier to the east. If you do this right, Mephisto's just gonna keep moving back and forth without attacking you, while you can shoot him from afar. And obviously this only works if you're on a ranged build. Otherwise it's just some bizarre Mexican standoff. When you're strong enough though, you shouldn't need to rely on this trick to kill Mephisto. Now, after killing Mephisto, don't just leave the game. You should open the super chest that is located behind his spawning location. Do this every time you kill him. The super chest doesn't look special, remember, but it can have great drops. And then to the west of the moat trick location, there's an armor stand that always spawns. You should always check this as well. You can find a good rune word base from it. Now for this run, you do want to stack as much magic find as possible to optimize your chances of getting good drops from Mephisto. For builds, Sorceress is at the greatest advantage due to teleport. Finding Mephisto is pretty easy when you can just teleport around to find the Durance of Hate. So, Amazon. Lightning Fury Javazon is the best option, but overall, Amazon is a poor choice for this run. She can easily kill Mephisto, but getting to him takes so long because of her poor mobility, and she cannot use the moat trick. So you need, in addition to a Staff of Teleportation, you need high resistances to survive, Mephisto and everything before him, and you need a source of Cannot Be Frozen. For the Assassin, the Lightning Sentry build can make quick work of Mephisto. The moat trick works perfectly. You deploy your traps, they'll keep hitting him as he's just moving back and forth. Burst of Speed gives her good mobility. That Staff of Teleport gets her there a lot faster. You can even use a Wand of Lore Resist to make the Mephisto fight shorter. Now for the Barbarian, it's very difficult to be efficient without Enigma giving you teleport. If you really want to farm Mephisto on a Barbarian, Frenzy build is your best option. High movement speed will let you move through the Durance of Hate as fast as possible, and if you stack Crushing Blow, then you can take out Mephisto pretty quickly once you get to him. Leap Attack also serves as a poor man's Enigma. That'll help, but you can't leap over as many obstacles as he could with teleport. For the Druid, the Hurricane Tornado Druid can farm Mephisto on a low budget. He can't rely on the moat trick, but Cyclone Armor will keep you safe from most of Mephisto's damage, because he deals elemental damage and this protects you from elemental damage, and then you can use all your summons to tank anything else that comes at you. For the Necromancer, Bone Spear build can lock down Mephisto in a bone prison and snipe him from afar. You don't even need to use the moat trick. You don't want to spam bone prison too much though, because it could lure in council members that'll then come and heal Mephisto, dragging out the fight. For the Paladin, Hammered In once again is best. In fact, Hammered In is arguably the second best build in the game for farming Mephisto before you get access to Enigma, thanks to its high mobility via charge and vigor. With the Staff of Teleportation, he's only slightly slower than a Sorceress. You cannot, however, use the moat trick on a Hammered In. You need to get in his face, and if you're on a budget, you're gonna have to learn to dodge his deadlier attacks. Then for the Sorceress, her teleport skill makes her the best at farming Mephisto. Both the Blizzard and the Meteor builds can kill Mephisto with ease, and by using the moat trick. But let's face it, almost any Sorceress skill can destroy Mephisto with the moat trick. On to our next run, we have the Pindleskin run. Pindleskin is a special monster to farm, because he's able to drop almost any item in the game, and he's always going to drop 2 items, regardless of how many players are in the game. A Pindle run is also incredibly fast to do and can be combined with other runs. To find Pindleskin, you must have first rescued Anya from the Frozen River in Act 5. After completing her quest, you can find Anya in town, and there's going to be a red portal beside her. This is to the southwest of the waypoint. By going through that red portal, you'll find Pindleskin in the next area, in the building to the northeast. Once you step through, move to that building quickly. There's gonna be a bunch of skeletons lying around, but they're gonna revive as Dread Warriors after a few moments. Now, Pindleskin himself is immune to poison, so you don't want to be a poison build for this run. And he's also sometimes immune to other damage types, but if that's the case, if you run up to him and see that he's immune to your damage type, just leave the game. Try again. It's such a fast run, it's not worth at all the time taken to let your mercenary take him out. Unless you get to a point where your mercenary is so well geared where your mercenary can 2-shot him. You gotta be careful though, because this is a deadly run. Pindleskin and his minions deal a lot of physical damage, and they charge you if you get too close. If he spawns with the Aura Enchanted affix or the Cursed affix, he can easily one-shot you. Now, because mobility isn't needed to efficiently farm Pindle, a lot of different builds can farm him. For the Amazon, we recommend Lightning Fury. The Lightning Fury skill just makes quick work of Pindleskin and his goons. For the Assassin, Lightning Sentry once again. You can set up the lightning traps from afar and kill Pindleskin while he's off screen, using Death Sentry's Corpse Explosion to help finish things off once one monster dies and leaves a corpse. For the Barbarian, the Berserk build is your go-to. Focus on killing just Pindleskin himself, and then use Find Item on his corpse to get possibly double the drops. You use the Howl skill to get his minions to run away so you can deal with Pindle one-on-one. And eventually you're going to be strong enough to start one-shotting Pindle. For the Druid, the Tornado Hurricane build is a good choice. Tornado can kill Pindleskin and his pack easily with little gear investment, and your summons will help keep you alive. For the Necromancer, the absolute best here is once again Bone Spear. Bone Prism plus the sniping, very strong combo. Now we will make special mention of the Summoner Necro here. If you're running a Summoner Necro, you want to do this farm, because the Summoner's greatest weakness is that you have to build up the momentum of relying on corpses you find to start summoning minions, and you gotta generate those corpses first. Not if you come here, because those Dread Warriors start off as corpses that you can instantly summon into your army. And since you're gonna do that anyway, you might as well take on Pindle as well. Then all your Bone Army is gonna serve as nice meat shields keeping you safe with this run. And if something does happen to get past you, you have Bone Armor to stop yourself from getting one shot. Of course, on a Summoner Necro, you're still using Corpse Explosion, so that's gonna be what you're gonna ultimately use to take out Pindle. For the Paladin, the best build here is not the Hammered In. No, thanks to patch 2.4, Fist of the Heavens Paladins have arisen. Nice buffs to the skill actually makes Fist of the Heavens the best build for farming Pindleskin. He can deal a massive amount of damage and from the very edge of the screen target Pindle. With solid defenses, with Holy Shield, max block chance, you can even survive very well. And then for the Sorceress, the Lightning build can almost instantly destroy Pindleskin and his pack. Then Energy Shield will keep you safe in case anything gets close to you. And other Sorceress builds are also very potent here, be it Blizzard, be it Meteor. Then the last run we're going to cover here is the Eldritch Shenk run. There are 2 mini-bosses in Act 5, Shenk the Overseer and Eldritch the Rectifier. They can be found relatively close to each other, they're right by a waypoint, so they're a very fast run even before teleport. By themselves, these two are not a big threat, but they do have random elite groups around them that can ruin your day if you're not careful. So in Act 5, you take the waypoint to the Frigid Highlands. Just north of the waypoint, you're going to find Eldritch, and then to the southeast, you're going to find Shenk. Both Shenk and Eldritch will always drop 2 items regardless of player count. They do have a lot of minions, however, who can also drop items, so you do benefit from playing on higher player count. This run, however, is not good for cold builds. Both Shenk and Eldritch are always immune to cold. They can also spawn with a random extra immunity, but never to magic. On this run, you can get nearly every useful item in the game, including high runes up to Zod. Every class has multiple builds that can farm this run with ease. It's really just cold builds that are not efficient here. But again, we'll go through the best build for every class. For Amazon, Lightning Fury build makes quick work of these two, and their goons. For the Assassin, Lightning Sentry, you're able to set up your traps off screen. You know where they're spawning. Start laying down those traps, and they're gonna zip, zap, and boom Eldritch and his goons, and you can use Cloak of Shadows to basically keep yourself invisible to any threats. For the Barbarian, the Berserk build focuses on killing just the boss of each pack, rather than the boss and their minions. You use Howl to get the minions to flee, and then eventually once you're geared enough, you can start one-shotting Shenk and Eldritch. Plus, then you use Find Item on their corpse to get a second shot at loot drops. You're basically getting 2 runs in for the price of 1. When you don't have any strong gear, Warcry can also be a good option here. For the Druid, the Tornado Hurricane Druid can easily handle these bosses and their minions. Cyclone Armor and Summon Grizzly giving you the survivability that makes this a very safe run. For the Necromancer, the Bone Spear build deals magic damage, so you never have to worry about these guys being immune to you. And then you can use Bone Prison to stop monsters from getting close to you. And then Corpse Explosion just destroys everything once you manage to snipe down one enemy with Bone Spear. For the Paladin, once again, the Hammered In. Magic damage bypasses any possible resistances, and the survivability granted through the max block chance from Holy Shield ensures you'll stay alive. For the Sorceress, the Lightning build is the best setup here. Energy Shield keeps you alive, while Lightning Bolt will eliminate these bosses and their minions. But Meteor and Hydra Sorceresses are also strong options early on. So those are the early game runs. Once you feel confident in your ability to handle these, then you can start thinking about moving on to mid-game runs. But that is going to be another video. Stay tuned. In the meantime, as a reminder, be sure to have checked out all of our other Diablo 2 guides, beginner's guide, leveling guides, video on the best builds for the season. Be sure to check those all out. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you saw on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo content.